Welcome to Four Wheels and a Seat. My name is Alex Dalrymple and this is the channel where you can see new cars reviewed every week, but you don't want to miss one. So hit that subscribe button and give me a like as well if you enjoy the video too. And this right behind me is the 2023 Hyundai Palisade Highlander. And it's had a bit of a nose job. And unlike a regular human nose job, this one has actually made it bigger and uglier, but yet somehow it's still strangely beautiful. The Palisade was obviously designed with the American market in mind. In fact, it wouldn't take much of a stretch of the imagination to picture a Cadillac or Chevrolet badge on the front. And in the States, they actually call this a mid-size SUV. But I mean, it's an 8-seater, it's large. They don't get much bigger than this. So without doubt, this car's most eye-catching angle is the front. I mean, everything about this nose says go away. It makes this car look like it should be ferrying around federal police or something like that. It's a big, angry, aggressive grille with a huge Hyundai badge in the middle, and I really like these segments here that extend all the way down to the bottom and even meet up with these indicator lights that are the same shape. It's a really unique design, the driving lights that extend down the bottom here. Side on and you get an idea of just how big this car really is. And I think my favourite design element though would have to be the wheels. They're a very simple 20-inch wheel with a nice classy, elegant design. It's not fussy or busy, it just looks good. The darkened privacy glass here adds to the limousine look. Some chrome accents here on the side and on the door handles add a nice contrast to the paintwork. The rear end of the Palisade's had a bit of work done on it too, with new rear light clusters, new exhaust tips and a full-width LED brake light up on top of the spoiler here. But underneath the powered tailgate is this car's showstopper piece, which is its absolutely enormous boot. 704 litres with the rear seats down. Put them up and you still get a very usable 311 litres of room. This is an enormous cargo space. There are two engines available in the Palisade, a 6-cylinder petrol and this 2.2 litre turbo diesel, which outputs 147 kilowatts of power and 440 newton meters of torque. Average fuel economy is 7.3 litres per 100 Ks on a combined cycle. Power is driven to all four wheels via a 8-speed automatic transmission. Inside, and we've got pretty much the most premium interior Hyundai offer. I mean, it's not quite at Genesis levels of comfort, but it's pretty good with very nice soft touch materials throughout. Although this wood here on the dash I don't think is real, and look, to be honest, I think this creamy white leather might be a bit of a nightmare to keep clean, as I can see here on the steering wheel, but at least when you first get it, it'll look really good. We've got a big 12.3-inch touchscreen here in the middle running the regular Hyundai Kia software, which is fantastic. It works really, really well. There are a couple of extra features on here that you won't find in other cars, like a PA announcement that you can make to rear seat passengers, and there's even the capability to record voice memos, which is something that I've only seen in BMWs before. Everything else runs pretty much as you'd expect. It works really well, and there's also wired Apple CarPlay and Android Auto. I like this air vent detail that runs the width of a dashboard. That's a bit of a design trend we're seeing in a lot of cars right now. The row of shortcut buttons here for the center console screen is very easy to access. And then we've got a sort of modular lower console here with a nice textured plastic. So we've got sort of one separate module here for the climate controls, another one for the drive and terrain mode selector and various drive controls and the push button gear changer, and then a separate row of buttons here for the heated and ventilated seats and heated steering wheel. There's a separate storage area underneath this floating island section here, which is a thank you very much Hyundai, which is a good spot to keep your handbag or a backpack, something like that. There's plenty of room down there. But then we've also got this very large center bin here, which opens and closes with a nice little push button, and there's some mechanical cup holders and wireless phone charging and a nice little space here for your wallet or something like that. Good sized center console bin with a removable tray. There's a 12-volt outlet and a USB-C output there as well. There are also additional USB-Cs and 12-volt outputs down on that lower section as well. Head-up display on this car is squashed a little bit. It doesn't seem to be like circles look like ovals. It's like it's the wrong aspect ratio. I'm not quite sure what's going on there. The digital instrument cluster is again typical Hyundai Kia. There's a few different display modes that are linked to your drive mode, and then this really cool other fourth mode, which is my favorite one that I have on all the time, that we saw in the i30 sedan. Actually, it's these kind of cool looking cubes, and it's a really interesting design. I've never seen anything like it in any other car than a Hyundai before. It's a different take on instrument cluster design. The steering wheel, I don't love this new steering wheel. I think I preferred the old one, which is a 3-spoke design. This is 4, and it just, I don't know, it doesn't really work for me. I mean, it feels really nice with its two-tone leather here, and it has all the functionality you need, plus paddle shifters to manually change gears if you want. The seats are Nappa leather. They're very comfortable. They're heated and cooled with full electric adjustment. The only thing that's not here is a massage function, which would have been nice, but can't have it all. We do have good lumbar support as well. And if you're a professional driver and you're spending a long time in this car, which, I mean, you know, this car would actually make quite a good sort of limousine or hotel pickup car, then you're going to be very comfortable here in the Palisade Highlander, that's for sure. Great visibility too. You can see right to the front of that enormous bonnet. The rear vision mirror here acts as a regular rear vision mirror, but it's also a screen connected to a camera up on top of the back of the car, and you can see whatever's behind you very, very clearly. So just a warning, if you're stuck behind a Palisade in traffic, know that the driver of the car in front of you can see you very, very clearly into everything that you're doing. You're not invisible when you're in a car in traffic, just putting that out there. Backseat passengers in the Palisade are going to be extremely comfortable as well. There is a heap of room back here. Now I'm sitting behind the driver's seat, which slides backwards and forwards when the driver gets in and out of the car to give them a bit more room. It's currently in its rear position, and I'm still nowhere near the seat in front of me, and I'm 190 centimeters tall. I've got about that much room, which is really, really good. The seats are Nappa leather. The outboard seats are heated and ventilated as well. There's an extra zone of climate control back here. We've got another 12-volt output. We've got USB-C ports here on the backs of the seats in front of us. Window blinds here if you want to keep the sun out or get a bit of extra privacy. The Nappa leather extending onto the doors here with 2 cup holders, and we've got a armrest here with 2 more cup holders, so you could in theory have space for 3 drinks back here, and you could quite easily get 3 adults across the rear bench here. Nice velour on the headliner here. We've got air vents up in the ceiling. This is a really nice cabin. Now, while it's not really easy for someone my size to get into the 3rd row of seating, you can move the 2nd row forward with just the push of a button, which does make life a bit easier. And look, depending on how friendly you are with the people sitting in the 2nd row, there's actually a decent amount of room back here for the rear seat passengers. So I'm actually not really all that squashed in. There's actually technically room for 3 people, although that'd have to be 3 quite little people, I think. 2 adults would be pretty comfortable back here. There's a couple of cup holders and more USB-C ports as well. But getting out of here while trying not to knock over the camera is, well, it's a challenge. As you'd expect with a car of this size, it does feel sort of big and heavy to drive, but not unduly so. And actually it's surprisingly nimble and agile, so it actually behaves like a smaller car. But not really so much when you're going around roundabouts and corners. Then you kind of are a bit more aware of this car's bulk. But the steering is not unduly heavy. In fact, it feels pretty well weighted. It's just right. I just saw another Palisade driving towards me on the other side of the road. These cars have a lot of road presence. And it was actually the previous model with the less over-the-top grille, and it still stands out on the road so much. If you want to be seen on the road, get a Palisade. The rear vision mirror with its screen does take just a little bit of getting used to, because your eyes just need a moment to adjust. By default, they're so used to seeing a regular mirror, and the depth perception is a little bit different when there's a screen there. So you're getting this very clear view of what's going on behind you, including a great view of the drivers. You can see whatever it is that they're up to in the front seat. And yeah, it's a little bit strange. For all intents and purposes, being a almost luxury limousine, this car is pretty well stocked with safety gear. So we've got multi-anti-collision avoidance, parking collision avoidance assist, and there are cameras in each of the wing mirrors which display on the digital instrument cluster whenever you turn the indicators on. And with that limousine-like ride in mind, it is very quiet in here, especially considering the fact that this car is a diesel. And of course, Hyundai have given this car, like they do with all of their cars, a local suspension tune. So in terms of handling potholes and rough course chip roads that you find throughout Australia, this car can handle them really, really well. And with this version of the Palisade being a top-spec Highlander with all-wheel drive, you feel supremely confident on the road. It was raining earlier in the week. There were a couple of times though where I did notice that it felt like this car could possibly slip, and I don't know if that was a lack of grip from the tyres. Maybe, I mean, this car's done 13,000 kilometres. I'm not really sure how new the tyres are on it. There was just a couple of times when it felt like it could maybe just slide a little bit, but generally speaking, the all-wheel drive performance does make for a very assured ride. Like all of the brand new Hyundais I review on this channel, the safety gear on this car does get quite noisy and irritating. And the constant beeping and talking at you about school zones, especially on the weekend when they're not in effect, does kind of drive me a little bit crazy. And the most annoying thing is that I can't figure out how to turn it off permanently. I can turn it off for each individual trip that I do, but that involves going into the menus 2 or 3 levels deep and changing it for each trip that I do. And then you get in the car again 10 minutes later and it's all reset. There we go again. It's not a 40 zone today. There's no school today. It's Saturday. And most annoying, this car knows it's Saturday because the date's on the screen. So we've got a few different drive modes: Comfort, Eco, Sport and Smart. I like Smart because it judges the driving conditions by itself and automatically makes changes as it needs to. Plus there are 3 terrain modes of snow, mud and sand. And they change the distribution of torque to all 4 wheels depending on the conditions. Oh, well, it's 31 degrees outside right now, and I have to say I'm really enjoying my ventilated seat. And the air conditioning is very nice. Driving past the only other Hyundai that's actually bigger than this car, and that is the Staria. Now, of course, you can carry 8 passengers in a Staria, but it's not nearly as nice to drive. The Palisade is far more comfortable and refined, and if you're going to be spending long hours behind the wheel, you'd be much happier in a Palisade than a Staria. And good luck taking a Staria off-road. It's funny, just looking at the perforated leather here on the door inserts, it immediately makes me think of the Mercedes-Benzes that I was obsessed with as a small child. I remember my mother taking me to the showroom and me sitting in all the cars and testing them out, and this sort of cream-coloured pattern here, the perforations, reminds me very much of that. If you need to move lots of people around, then there's any number of people movers you can buy, but if you enjoy driving, then the Palisade is where you want to be.